It's the end of work as you know it. Welcome to WorkEnd, a Neurodiversity Podcast, a monthly panel discussion exploring the innovative world of neurodivergent individuals redefining work. Join us as we share unique perspectives, experiences, and ideas. Brought to you by Umbrella US and hosted by the fabulous Salena Gavin. This platform features candid conversations with neurodivergent self-advocates and allied community members. Gain firsthand insights into their journeys and discover how ND traits have become powerful assets while challenges continue to be present. Whether you're seeking belonging, inspiration, and new understanding, or aiming to create a more inclusive workspace, WorkEnd, a Neurodiversity podcast, offers knowledge, personal stories, and actionable insights. Subscribe today to reshape your perception of work and expend energy in a brand new way.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to WorkEnd, and I'm your host, Salena Gavin. You'll have to excuse me tonight because for some reason my computer is not working correctly, so I'm on my phone, so I apologize. Letting you guys know this is a live discussion panel. We want to provide everyone the opportunity, the viewers, to participate in the discussion as our panelists discuss work in its many contexts. We invite you to actively participate. All comments will be valued and considered as we continue to work together toward our future success. Please remember, embrace curiosity, invite differences, different perspectives and opinions. We ask that everyone remember that we are all at different levels of knowledge and experience, and we can have positive and compassionate discussions even if we do not agree. And I'm sorry, my name is Salena Gavin. I am your host. I am in my office at work, sitting at my desk, and I have a fake blue brick background. So let's get started, guys. Our panelists tonight are Genevieve, Jagmeet, and Robin. Okay. Each comes to the table with their own experiences. You all know that. And you know how many wonderful expertise that neurodivergents have. We look forward to hearing what each of you have to say. Okay. So, hello, humans. That keeps me safe. Okay. Jeannie, please introduce yourself.
My name is Genevieve Bergman. I am a transgender woman. I'm middle-aged. This evening I happen to be wearing a short bobbed wig parted on the side and a royal blue top with shoulder cutouts. I'm sitting in a workspace that is basically just a blank wall with a desk. And so it's very Spartan in its decoration, but at the same time useful for me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that introduction. I think I need to get a little bit more particular. I like the way you did that, shoulders out. I love it. Okay. Next we have Jagmeet. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much, Salena. My name is Jagmeet. I am also middle-aged. I am Indian. I have long black hair, and I am sitting with a little bit of blank wall behind me with a bookshelf on one side. But I'm very excited to be here. I am a board-certified behavior analyst, and I've worked within my field for the last 15 years, and I'm excited to be on this panel and learn from everyone else as well.
Oh, that is going to be awesome. I can't wait to hear everything that you do. I'm really my ears have perked up. Okay, and next, Robin, last but not least.
Hello, I'm Robin McKenzie, she, her, from Tualatin, Oregon. I'm a 44-year-old with pale skin, long black hair. I am wearing a t-shirt that actually I designed. It says, "Stay sane by writing." It was a motto I came up with during COVID when I very much had to stay sane by writing. I am in front of my overcrowded bookshelf with actually 2 guitars and a trombone behind me, which is a perfect visual background for what I do. I am a dyslexic writer with 2 novels. They're medieval, feminist medieval fantasy novels called Daughters of Ashby and the sequel, Dota Eris. I also mentor young writers. I'm a musician and a music arranger, primarily a trombonist. I also have sound color synesthesia, so band practices are colorful for me. On a more professional level, I am the image and media director for the Power Pep Band in Portland, Oregon. And just in July, I started working as the marketing manager for Arts in Motion in Bakersfield, California, obviously a remote job.
As you all can see, we are loaded with knowledge, loaded with education, and loaded with experience. So with all of that, let's begin our panel discussion, okay? It will last 50 minutes. There'll be 15 minutes per question, 5 minutes per person. I'll give you 5 minutes. You can go over because we do have some leeway, but if you're going too long, I will raise my finger just to give you like a little nod that, you know, it's going to be this finger, not the other one. Okay. All right. So let's get started. Our first question is for Jeannie. Am I saying it's Jeannie?
Just like an Aladdin.
All right. What does meaningful work and community engagement mean to you as a neurodivergent individual with multiple intersecting identities? That's a question, boy.
Meaningful work is something that I've been pursuing most of my adult life. I started out life as a United Methodist pastor and spent all of my time, 23 years, working to not just engage myself in the work that I did, but to bring others alongside, because it was always about the corporate. It was not about me. It was about us working together to accomplish a goal, to accomplish an end. And that's sort of where meaningful work sort of took on its nature for me, in that if you don't include people, if you aren't bringing people together to produce something that benefits as many people as possible, then for me, it was very difficult to find meaning. I could do things for myself, but that was just for myself, and it didn't produce meaning for me. But the moment I became engaged with others and doing something with them to accomplish something that benefited all of us, that was when I began to see myself sort of live into the work that I did. And when I stopped doing that work, it became much more challenging to find sort of that double side of that. What is meaningful, and where's the community that I work with? Fortunately, I sort of dovetailed out of being a United Methodist pastor into being a transgender woman right at the time when the United States decided we're going to declare war against transgender people. And so the work that I began to take on was activism and advocacy and education to help people understand, if they had never interacted with a transgender person, what does it mean to be in an engaging situation with a transgender person? Because many people that I've spoken to says, I've never met a transgender person before in my life. The reality is you probably have met a transgender person. You just didn't realize who they were. And so coming out of that sort of predefined, setup of what meaningful work, what we called vocation in the faith, and community engagement, that was already set up. And now I'm trying to find that for myself as I begin to work with different people in different sort of ways. I have to rely more on my natural inclinations to be charismatic and to be able to bring education to people at any level where they are. So I have to be able to, dial in my vocabulary or dial in my dialect so that I can approach people. And so that's where I find all of this history of who I've been coming together, smashing into this so that I can go on and do the work that I do, whether that be with a group of professionals who want to learn to make a workplace a better place a more inclusive and a more affirming place for transgender, non-binary, intersex, two-spirited people. Or if it's going into a school and talking with teachers and administrators about youth and young people and the experiences that they have, or just going into a grocery store and shopping. I find that I have to dial in my work with every different audience that I encounter.
I love how you said that it's meaningful. Meaningful work is when it benefits you and someone else. I love that, because right now I'm in a situation where I don't know if I'm benefiting anyone doing what I'm doing. And that's where I get very depressed, because I can't just do a job. I need to, like you said, have meaning. Jagmeet, what about you? Did you need me to ask you the question again?
No, thank you, Salena.
Okay.
That was really beautiful, Jeannie. I think that
It was.
so much of that resonated in terms of the drive and the alignment with those personal values. And, you know, I've been really fascinated, especially after the pandemic, with the concept of burnout and this concept of wellness in the workplace, and this, you know, this drive that workplace culture, you know, work is causing burnout, work is causing, you know, mental health stress and strain. And so, you know, when we're looking at it from a different filter, when we're looking at the work that we do aligns with what's important to us because it's meaningful, it brings us purpose, it's not work anymore. Then you have this constant fuel to want to do more and want to grow and want to think differently and approach these problems differently. And so a lot of, Jenny, what you had mentioned is kind of what I really resonate with, is that, you know, I'm so invested in the work that I want to learn about. I'm by no means by any expert, and I don't want to be the expert, because then that means I won't be able to learn anymore. And so constantly being able to drive something new, learn, and then create education and opportunities for others. And for me, you know, my intersecting kind of identity, I was born in India. My family migrated here when I was just a baby. So I raised my entire life here. But the core foundation and the core value at home has always been, you know, become successful, pursue a career, become independent. Because what that means is, it means freedom, it means stability, it means liberation, it means all of these things in terms of why our people, my family, and why we all came into this country. And we came here because we need to become independent. And so what does work do? And when we allow employment opportunities for a population or for an individual that doesn't have that opportunity or that pathway in that natural way, we are creating freedom and independence for them, and as well as their entire circle. Especially for, you know, adults with disabilities, if they don't have employment opportunities, that's a lot of strain on that entire family. And so how do we get every single person to not just do a job, but really love what they're doing and want to do more of it, instead of clock in, clock out, and I don't need a And so I love this question. When you guys sent this over, I was like, oh gosh, I can talk about meaningful work a lot. So
I love how the try, learn, and create, like what you said about, you know, the educating others and educating yourself at the same time. And it all just meshes together, what Jeannie said and Jagmeet. And now, Robin, can I get your views on this question?
Yeah, I hope you don't mind. I actually wrote something, so I may be looking to the side.
Oh, I'm reading all the time.
My brain is dead.
You're fine.
So honestly, I just started to realize that what I'm doing as a writer and a musician is work. You discussed in the previous podcast, which everyone should watch, the difference between work and a job, and how, you know, a job is something you do for a paycheck. Work is any expenditure of energy, even if maybe you're not getting paid or you're not getting paid enough. And that was kind of a new concept to me, to be honest. So little background, I have epilepsy, and for 10 years, it was so out of control I was having 3 seizures a week. I could barely mentally function. Let alone hold down even a work from home job. I honestly don't recall much of those 10 years, or the memories are scrambled up. And I filled in the time with what I passed off as just hobbies, music, writing. They weren't a career. I was taught, like, you can't be a writer. You'll never make money as a musician. They were hobbies. And like, even when my husband and I lived on a farm. I worked there. He went to work, his job. And I didn't even consider that as work because, I wasn't getting a paycheck, although we were getting cheap rent. So like, this idea was just grounded into my head. You need an employer, not you could be the employer. That's out of the question. And so even when I was voted in as the image and media director for the Power Pep Band, and I joked with my husband, it's like, hey, look, I have a job now. And he looked at me like really serious. And he's like, yeah, yes, that is your job. You don't get paid, but the band does. You're making the money. And that just changed my view, Then my brain was so set on work is a job and anything else is not fulfilling. It's just a hobby. And that messed with my sense of worth, that I have chronic depression, and not having a job for 10 years put a massive financial strain. I know my husband was under a lot of stress to take care of me when I was down, and then also keep a roof over our heads, which that was why we were living on a farm. We couldn't. Mm-hmm. And so like, my entire social circle revolved around band, music, and that was pretty much it. And because I was getting paid, I was told, you're wasting your potential. Like I could do something about it, I was writing novels. I was performing music for millions collectively. And I was changing the lives of young writers by mentoring them, helping them to get published, just being the moral support. A lot of them were LGBTQ+, and they were getting backlash from their families. And I tried to be the safe space for them. A lot of them were writing stuff that was against their family religious beliefs, and they would come to me. And so it's like I was working to make the world a better place, and I didn't really realize it. So that's something I want to change. Again, I'm new to all this, but I want people who can't leave their homes for medical or mental health reasons to know they aren't wasting their life. They can do meaningful work. Society just needs to figure out a way to reward them for it.
Exactly. Okay, so thank you guys for all of that, all of those answers, and that knowledge, because I know in America, in the United States, there's so much emphasis put on work and what you do for a living, and it identifies who you are as a person. And I know that my intersecting identities, they don't intersect so well all the time. I can't really keep them straight all the time. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to learn from these panels. Our second question, are there cultural, I think I just spoke about this. Are there cultural or community specific practices that have positively or negatively impacted your ability to engage meaningfully in work and the community life as a neurodivergent individual? And we're going to start with Jagmeet.
Yeah, I certainly think the intersectionality, especially of culture, in my case, has impacted, different career paths that I've decided. And I think, kind of touching a little bit on what I mentioned earlier, and a lot of what Robin, you just shared, is that, what is even considered valuable in our social cultures. And so, especially from, the culture and the generation that I'm in, there was a certain number of pathways that were considered, you've made it, doctor, engineer, lawyer, probably about it. And mostly it's because the intentions were not bad behind it. I mean, these career paths were seen as stable, and again, providing that, financial stability, the independence, the status, all of those things. And so if you're a family that's really has been struggling and, you're moving to a different country, how do you ensure that your children and the future generations are going to be able to, be independent? And so it's coming from a very protective perspective. But growing up within that, where none of those career paths were anywhere close to what I wanted to do, it was a struggle of, well, actually, I just want to work with kids. Okay, I just want to do this thing that is not going to make any money at all. And how is that gonna, how does that, how is that going to be seen? And so not only seen in terms of how productive I am in terms of a career, but also, are other people going to judge me? And that was a lot of the case. Like, oh, okay, you're going to school for education. Oh, what are you going to do with that? And so there's a lot of cultural kind of perspectives that I see. And I don't know if this is going to bleed into the next question, but I think it's important for all cultures, and I talk about it a lot within our culture, is that if we have, actually, maybe I'll save this for the next question. But yeah, being able to unbox yourself from, what the social norms are telling you.
So yes, that is so. I know you talk about me being part of the BIPOC community, and I'm a certified school psychologist. And when I said I wanted to work with kids and be a psychologist, so you mean you're going to talk about your problems to other people outside of our home? And what is that going to do? So, I mean, there's that stigma, in African American families and in a lot of BIPOC families. What goes on in this house stays in this house. It doesn't go outside. So that was one of the cultural practices and differences that really have negatively and positively affected me. Next, Robin.
To go off of that, it's like me being a writer. To be honest, when I said I wanted to go to college, my mother's response was, why? You're just going to get married and have kids. And I didn't have kids. So,
right.
And so then it's like, okay, well, you can do, okay, you're going to college. You're going to be a teacher, right? I was like, maybe. And so it's like, to get my parents to fund college, I had to take teaching classes, which then I found out I was not allowed to be a teacher in the state of California because of my medical issues. And so then I was like, okay, I'm going to be a writer. And immediately was like, well, what are you going to do with that? And being a musician, there's such a idea of what musicians are, a lot of bad. And it's like, no, we're just having fun. We're just playing music. But then there was this whole thing of okay, little story time. My very first job interview, there was a question on there. Do you have any neurological conditions that could affect your ability to work? I was scared if I put yes, they just throw it out. And I put no. And they ended up hiring me to work as a ride operator at Knott's Berry Farm. Loved the job. But I was working with machinery. And 6 months in, I had a seizure while the ride was in motion. It was an absent seizure, so just like blanking out, wasn't convulsing. But to me, I started the ride and boom, the ride's over. And I was just thinking, if anything had happened during that time, that would be on me, because I didn't admit to something. I wasn't true to myself. And like, I shouldn't have done that job. There are certain limitations as someone with epilepsy I just need to accept. And my culture was hide it. Hide what you are. Don't admit to anything. Luckily, I got into epilepsy awareness groups, and I learned how to take care of myself, to to respect my limitations. The writing and music communities are full of neurodiverse people. And you just need one person to raise their hand and everyone's like, yep. And so I'm learning from them. Like, they have ideas, opportunities to get work that does pay, stuff I wasn't given. It was just like, you're disabled, that's it. And so now it's like there's communities out there, and I know, I'm trying new stuff, and here I am on a podcast for the very first time. I was afraid I would be nervous as all heck, and instead it's fun.
Look at what they've done to me. I started out as just like a panelist at one point, and now I'm hosting. I never thought in a million years that I would be able to do this, but Umbrella Alliance has really empowered me to use my neurodivergence and my intelligence, and it just feels so good. It feels so good to talk to individuals who are like me.
Having that community support is great.
Oh, it's awesome. And I'm trying to bring that here. Jeannie, what are your thoughts?
So interestingly enough, I went from the culture of conformity to a culture of being a complete outsider.
Oh my gosh, yes. I just remembered what you said. Okay, yes.
Yeah, because having been a pastor, there was very little room for individuality. There was very little room for going outside of the box, because when you started to stray outside of the box, you were reminded you work for us. Mm-hmm. You work for us as a corporate, body, and therefore we're going to adhere to a certain set of norms and ideals of who we are as a people. And so learning throughout my entire life to fit in and being able to conform was very natural for me. And it's only been through the last 3 years stepping out into my authenticity of who I am, and being able to not only claim my gender and my sexuality, but also my neurodivergence, and being able to finally just say, this is who I am. And if you really don't like it, that is your issue, not mine. Therefore, I'm going to be who I am. And that is how I operate in everything that I do. When I sit down with someone, whenever I'm doing, one-on-one coaching with someone, I remind them, you are who you are. You don't have to be anything for me. You don't have to conform to my need for you to be a particular person. I want you to be who you are. Or whenever I'm talking advocacy and dealing with a wide group of people and saying, you have every right to be the person you are uniquely, individually. And you have a right to live into your identity because it is who you are. When you try to conform to someone else, when you try to fit in with something else, you are only causing harm to yourself. So I've had to go from this air of conform to everything so that you can get along, which is one of the reasons why I failed miserably as a pastor, because conforming was not a natural gift of mine, but it became a wonderful skill that I learned over time to help me fit in. But being able to look at that and say, over 20 something years of living into somebody else's ideals of who I should be, I recognize the pain that it caused me.
It's like being incarcerated. It's like part of you is incarcerated.
Absolutely. Sitting down and looking at myself in the mirror and not recognizing myself. Mm-hmm. I tell people about my experience as coming into my transgender appearance and recognizing between, who I was and who I am. Even every day when I wake up, before I put on my makeup, before I put on my wig, I don't see a person in the mirror. And it's only when I do get my makeup on, when I do get my wig on, do I look in the mirror and I say, hey, wait a minute, I know who you are. It's good to see you finally. But also being able to talk to people in that way and saying, you don't see yourself in the thing that you're doing, do you? And then giving them that assurance that they have the right, they have the freedom to be who they authentically are, wherever they are. And that's the gift that I want to give to people, you know? And so being neurodivergent and looking at the world and saying, I've done the conforming thing, I can tell you it's not as big a reward as they want it to seem. But living authentically, being who you are without feeling like you have to be somebody else's image of yourself, that's freedom. That's life. And that is what, you know, I'm striving to communicate to people and try to get across to them on a daily basis.
Oh my gosh, Jeannie, I could listen to you talk forever. You know what? It is so indicative of the fact that you used to be a pastor. I think you're still a pastor. Just the way you speak and present yourself, it's absolutely lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and our third question is discuss the intersection of neurodivergence and mental health within marginalized communities, particularly in the context of work and community engagement. And we're going to start with Robin first on this one.
Okay. So to prepare for this whole discussion, I actually decided to create a list of my own intersections, both diagnosed and not diagnosed, but highly likely. So draw the Venn diagram where you want. I'm going to list them. Epilepsy, synesthesia, dyslexia, dyscalculia, ADHD, possible autism, chronic depression, OCD, PTSD, bipolar, anxiety disorders, including agoraphobia and globophobia, which is the fear of balloons, makes parties terrible.
Right.
As well as my disabilities include, epilepsy is in there, but lupus, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. I've had rheumatoid arthritis since I was a child. I struggle to walk. Sometimes I use a cane. I'm also losing my vision now due to macular degeneration on top of all that. So that makes finding a career, like all of that shadows my path. It's like, I want to do this. No, you can't, you know, different things. Every career I've ever thought I wanted to do was blocked, or I felt it was blocked. I still struggle to this day. I don't have a regular paycheck. What I do make isn't enough to help make rent every month. I can't work with numbers. I can't work a job using a telephone or public speaking because the agoraphobia, I just choke up. I'm shocked this is working. I can't do steady hours because if I have a rheumatoid arthritis flare up, I may not be able to use my hands to type, or I may have a seizure and not be able to have the mental clarity to communicate. And that could last 3 days.
So Robin, what do you, a person with all of those intersectionalities as you are, what work can you do? What work is there for you? What is out there for individuals who have so many intersectionalities?
That is something I'm seeking out, to be honest. My epilepsy is now controlled, which is nice. I've turned to social media, something I can do. You know, there's the shield of I'm behind a screen, and I can create websites. I can write up articles. I love writing novels. I love working with the kids is writing, but that's not making money. And I've started publishing these novels, and that is some form of work. And I'm actually writing a novel about synesthesia. And when I mentioned about it to a writers group in downtown Portland, like everyone was excited. They want more of this. They want characters who are unique and believable. And that's us. You know, we are unique. We are, you know, as neurodiversity becomes more of a social discussion, our experiences are being understood and empathized, and we we are the believable people now, because people recognize our experiences, perhaps in their own life or someone they know.
Thank you so much for all of that, Robin. I love how, you know, how you're just going through and trying to find out. It's like a seek and find almost, like
Exactly.
trying to find out where you fit in and what fits you right. Jeannie, you're next.
Yeah, and there are so many new concepts just in this question that I've had to adapt to. I've only been in a marginalized community for 3 years, and
Okay.
I went from full privilege and access of a white male, middle-aged, in a secure position of employment, to being a transgender woman who is diagnosed in multiple ways with different forms of mental health concerns. And now I'm homeless. And
Wow.
it really is I still haven't had time to get my mind fully wrapped around it. I've only started identifying myself as homeless because, you know, I had a place to live, you know, 3 months ago. Last month, I was in a new place because I had to leave the previous place, and now I'm in a third place because I don't have a place to call my own. And I'm working to change that. You know, I'm working to try to get back on my feet so that I can have a place for myself. But being in a marginalized community that 4 years ago I would have never thought was possible, at that point I was just dealing with depression and anxiety. And now I have had all of that compounded and multiplied over and over and over again, to the point that I don't even know what kind of mental health resources I need, because the diversity of the experiences that I have had, I have no voice to be able to express. Here's where I need help.
Right.
I was on disability whenever I left the United Methodist Church. I left with a disability leave that included the benefits. I lost those benefits 4 months ago, 5 months ago. And then I'm at this place of, who do I turn to? Who do I need help with? You know, who can I go to and find, you know, the resources that I need? It was shocking for me, someone who had had privilege, someone who had had all of the resources that I ever needed, having to go down to the county health department, Health and Human Services. A friend had to go with me so that I could apply for SNAP benefits. Because I didn't know anything about that.
Right.
There were no steps. You know, I'm living in the third state in 3 months, and I don't know how to establish proof of residence. Having moved from a different state into a different state and now into a third state, how do I establish proof of residence? And
I ask, Jeannie? Can I ask, why is the constant moving happening? Is it just because you can't find the assistance you need, or?
Well,
Go ahead.
interestingly enough, the first time that I had to move was because I'd lost my disability benefits and I couldn't pay for rent. I had no income whatsoever. I
Oh
couldn't
my
find work.
God.
I had a friend who offered me room in exchange for an arrangement. The situation when I moved with that person in Minnesota became something that was an incompatible arrangement, and so I had to leave there. I moved back to Arkansas, where I had moved from initially, and the situation that I moved into was a home of a friend, but it was no longer secure, that there were financial reasons that they couldn't provide for their own home, and so I had to go seeking, and now I'm in the home of yet another friend. And so it's been different circumstances that has caused me to have to move from place to place to place.
Wow.
I am glad to say that my disability benefits have been reinstated, and I will have the benefit of being able to use those eventually to get my own place again. But as it is right now, I'm still living with friends while I'm getting my feet underneath me.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for
You bet.
answering that for me and being
Yeah.
so open and honest about, what you're currently going through. I thought that maybe you had this had happened in the past, like it had been years since you have but wow, like to know that it's this fresh and you're dealing with
Yeah.
all of these social protective factors, that are some are working and some aren't.
Right.
Jagmeet, what do you think? What do you think about this question?
Yeah, I'm really in awe of both of these stories, Robin and Jeannie, in terms of both the just the bravery in terms of sharing the stories and
Mhm.
your persistence and the resilience to continue to fight. And I think that really what stands out, and a theme that I've kind of seen is number one, community, being able to have that support system and being able to lean on that support system when needed. And it sounds like, Jeannie, you have some really good friends in your life, and being able to lean on them through this, and then also the concept of role models. Robin, I think that how you were kind of wrapping that up in terms of how do you how do you create work, or how do you create that position that maybe hasn't existed before. And I think what came to me when I first saw this question was that being able to do the type of work, especially in the community, in my cultural community, this type of work is not common. And so saying, hey, I'm a professional that works with children with autism, or I'm a professional that supports families with autism, that was not really understood in terms of what does that mean. Autism wasn't understood. What does that mean? And so
Right.
being in this field for such a long time, I now have a lot more parents and a lot more community members wanting to inquire. And I've seen a lot more of our new generation kind of get into this field of work. And I think within that, there's a sense of community and role model, in this sense of, hey, this person does this work, so this must be a safe space for me to explore the needs for my child, or for me, myself individually. And I think that, again, using the workplace, or using the purposeful work that we do to be kind of identified as a resource for others that are looking for that. And so, hoping that, and it sounds like that's a little bit of the mission of, this type of podcast as well, is that how do you identify with somebody that might be struggling with what you're struggling with, or they may be on a path or on a journey that you haven't yet explored yourself, or we're all in different parts in our lives, and maybe something you're not yet open to or understanding, but being able to find someone that you can look towards, of, hey, if that person did it, maybe I can do it. Or if that person is doing this work, or if that person knows a little bit about this, maybe that's a safe space for me to go and get information. And I think that, especially for marginalized communities, it's really important to have this variety of experiences and lived experiences made available, because oftentimes it's the box, it's the conformity, it's this is the path, this marks all the check boxes. And so how do we pivot from that, and how do we allow ourselves to be a little bit more curious in terms of what else are the options available for a fulfilling life? And so I'm really grateful that you guys shared those stories and really resonate with a lot of that.
I like how I thought about Umbrella Alliance and how, we are together and we're allowing for that exploration, for individuals to explore the different facets that they may want to endure. I guess I have a question for you guys. Being neurodivergent, and how long does it take? Is there a time limit on exploration? How long are you going to do that and stay in that? Do you kind of see what I'm saying? Stay in that dynamic instead of going on to find meaningful work. You just, some people explore forever. And how do you mold that into, okay, we're exploring now, but we need you to move on? Because I find that in my community, they'll identify the problem and just walk around with that identity, but not do anything about what the problem is, because I know they feel helpless and hopeless. But I know Umbrella Alliance can bring that to them. But that's my question. How do you, I guess, am I asking how you motivate people with neurodivergence?
I'm just going to toss this out. For 49 years, I thought I was a man. So I think 49 years seems to be my goal line right there. So I've got another 49 years to explore all these other things. So
I love it.
Nice.
But I do find that I find that about 6 months to a year, and all of a sudden my feet are itchy, and it's like, okay, I need to try to find something new. And it may just be a little bit of an adjustment. It may not be, okay, I need to put this on a shelf somewhere and just move on with my life. It may be, okay, I need to take this piece out of here. That didn't work, but I can put this piece in, and now I have a new sort of thing that I'm doing. And, one of the tasks that I do within the work that I do is I do a news show where I cover topics of impact with the transgender, non-binary, intersex, and two-spirit communities. And I use whatever social media aspect or platform that I can to get news out, because I have people tell me, why aren't we hearing these things? For me, that's an adventure. For me, that is something that I can take, that little piece of doing a news show, and that's enough to fill all of the other things. In a year, I may be tired of doing a news show, so I take that piece out and I find another piece to put in there. Maybe it's writing, maybe it is, doing a podcast or something along those lines. And I find that my, exploration is not necessarily I need to take this whole thing and put it aside and explore something totally new. Just part of just a part is enough for me to find fulfillment.
I love, and it touches on what you were saying, Robin, how, you were writing and then you're using music, and then you just were, kind of taking those little parts off the shelf and seeing what works and then putting those back. And it sounds does that make sense to you? What you were experiencing?
Yeah, exactly. I was, to be honest, I was writing fan fiction, and I have a fanfic with 1.6 million views. So
wow, amazing.
Nice. And and my readers were like, why don't you publish something? I felt I wasn't good enough. I have very low self-esteem. So okay, I'll throw this book out, Yeah. And then I throw out another. And then so I was like, well, you write well, why don't you write grant proposals. And so for Powered Pet
Oh,
Band, I wrote a
wow.
grant proposal just last year and won us $2,500. And I was like, people are like,
Wow.
that can be a career, you know? And so
Yes.
that's my new, I guess, exploration, or it's like, let's look into this now. That's my newest thing.
Nice.
In the meantime, the social media thing can be something I'm exploring. I just got into marketing, which is
Nice.
completely new for me. So it's like I'm trying to go into action. Yeah.
You're like, I love it because you're like here, you're like here, you're like here, and you're
the ADHD,
satisfied and you're happy. You know what I mean? Like you're fulfilled
Yes.
doing it, and you're
something you want to
enjoying
do, something you love.
Right. Jack Meat, did you have any last comments or for us? Because I really enjoyed this podcast. You know what? Thank you guys so much. Because when I first got on here, well, you knew my neurodivergence was like at 100. So I just want to thank you all for being patient with me and doing this awesome podcast. Jagmeet, did you have any last comments?
Sure. Yeah. I think I came across this really cool article a couple of months ago. It was the ADHD and the entrepreneurial mindset. And so a lot of research talking about how the ADHD mind can make so much sense out of the chaos. And that is really what an entrepreneur needs. And so, just kind of that brain in terms of you don't have to just stare at the screen and the spreadsheets all day long, because that is not what we're meant to do. And so, just this idea of there's just so much to do. And Robin, I am right there with you. And I feel like so much of it is kind of setting those intentions that is like guiding you towards that purpose. And so if you know what it is, what your values are, what really brings joy to you, and you set those intentions, and you're not really rigid about it. It's so much of like, hey, I can write, I can collaborate, I can do music, I can do these things. And you don't have that pressure in terms of like, I have to perform or I have to deliver.
Right.
That creates so much beautiful, output that's innovative, it's authentic, it's creative. And I think that's really what we were meant to do on this planet. And it's really inspiring. So I feel it's needed, and it's definitely coming in time to have these conversations in the world and allow the next generation and our generations to really pursue some of them.
Beautiful. And that right there is going to end our panel discussion tonight on the WorkEnd. I want to thank everyone for joining us. And like I said, we have the most knowledgeable, dynamic, neurodivergent individuals who we interview on this panel, once a month. And you really need this information. If you want to learn, if you want to know, we are here. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to WorkEnd, a neurodiversity podcast, a monthly live panel discussion coming to you every fourth Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. If you or someone you know would like to be a panelist, be sure to let us know by filling out our Share Your Experience form at umbrellaallianceus.org/take-action. If you're catching this live on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel for updates on this and other Umbrella US events. And finally, if you'd like to support the podcast, be sure to leave a rating and review and share with your friends. To donate to Umbrella US and learn all the latest from us, visit us at umbrellaallianceus.org and follow on your favorite social media platforms. Thanks again. See you next time.